Elephant Man Podcast Network, grown man conversations dealing with elephants in the room. It's your man DB. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can know when new material coming out. IG Elephant Man _ podcast. Facebook / Elephant Man Podcast. Twitter / Poster Boys. And you can hit the Pale Hebrew in the corner and it should take you to the YouTube if you're not subscribed already. And also, I'm in the process of getting my Rumble, BitChute, Hebrew Connect, TV Hebrew Connect, Odyssey, Hebrew Sphere, and many, many more. And a Patreon coming soon with content. You have access to my whole library. Blessings to everyone. Shalom. Blessings to everyone. And I don't even know what's going on. I don't know. I'm not going to even say that YouTube is messing with, well, YouTube, because we just had a 12 subscriber decrease. Maybe it's the content. I don't know. Blessings to everybody. Also, the polls came in. If you haven't voted yet, the polls came in. I just asked a quick question. What you would like to see more of from this channel? Because, I don't want to waste my time or your time. And I appreciate everything that you do. So the question was, what would you like to see more of in the coming months from Elephant Man Podcast Network? End Times News, prayer and worship, build with special guests, or Bible studies. And majority of the people said 47% End Time Brews News. Now, surprisingly enough, some people think some people don't really care for the Brews News. They think it's hating or harping on negative, right? Or taking your eyes off the Most High or whatever. And the reason I do it because I'm a history, I like history buff, right? Some people call some of the things that we do conspiracy theory, and that's what's this whole series right here. Where the Khazars, it's not to expose, it's not to do all these different things, but I'm a firm believer in that we need to know who's who and what's their intentions, right? And we are looking for true allies, right? We're looking for true representation. We're looking for true people that come that's going to lock our arms with us, right? And we know that the Most High has been there since day one, but he gets put on the back burner for some reason. He gets put on the back burner, right? But he's been there since day one, right? We are created in the image and likeness of the Most High. He's been there since day one, right? So, yeah, I don't know what happened. We just had a drop in subscribers, and that's cool, too, because those who are supposed to be here and want to be here will be here. It's all business. It's never personal. It's his business, never personal. Love and bless everybody that's coming in. Kimberly J. Shalom. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. Aruka at the well. Shalom. Shalom. Blessings to you. Shirley. Shalom, fam. Blessings to you. Dale J. Always, brother. Blessings. Blessings. Jill C. Oh, she got... Wait a minute. She got Jill C and Aruka at the well. Okay, it's all good. Jill C. Brew Queen. Blessings. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. So we're going to be making sure we do a lot of... make sure you share. We're going to be doing a lot of end time events, but I just a firm believer in believing. I just believe we need to know who's who, and not just what I believe, right? So sometimes when I make some statements, it might sound outlandish to some people who have not been reading, right? They just think it's blame game or finger pointing or exposing or throwing people under the bus. No, this only the purpose of it's the enemy come to steal, kill, and destroy. Yahushua say, I come that you may have life and that more abundantly. And I don't think it's in the great by and by only, but I believe that we can give life and that more abundantly, even right here, right now, and forever. Okay? So some people, like I was giving part of that last series, is like, oh yeah, I'll help you. I see you down bad, right? I see you hurting. I see you down bad. I'm going to come to your aid. I'm going to help you. And you'd be like, man, that's nice of them, man, to come along and help me. But if it's no string, it should be no strings attached, right? It shouldn't be no strings attached. Don't help me out because you got another hidden agenda, another operation. Don't help me out because of that. I can do bad by myself, right? And all that glitters ain't gold. All right, so we're going to get into this on today. James Smith, shalom, blessings to you. Stay on Fire Ministry, Shalom family, blessings to you. We had a blessed time with y'all. I am going to reach out to you guys via email. So we're going to have us a prayer day. I love that. What Natalie focus on? Yeah, I love that you talk about topics to build and not foolish. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the whole, the whole reason for that, right? Because you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. And then a lot of people think that this subject right here is not being nice at all, but it made me a lot of questions was answered and are being answered by me knowing who's who. But I'm gonna put that tab in there, the Elephant Man Podcast Community tab, and then you vote if you haven't voted yet. So we put that in there. Which one would you like to see more of? Right, because it's about for the people. So click on that. And would you like to see more end times news, more prayer, more worship and prayer, building with special guests, or Bible studies? All right, so just let me know what's going on with that. So let's get right into this. I've been looking at this material for a while. It's Ashkenazi Jews are kids. Yeah, and at the end of the day, we know that. But I'm just saying, basically, where are they? What's going on? It just make it seem like they just fell off the planet and they just have no connection. But to gain control of the resources, I have a document. I'm looking at it even right now. It's called The History of the House of Rothschild. The history of the House of Rothschild. It is dynamic. It goes year upon year, how they acquired banks from the Catholic Church, France, the diamond mines, why they basically tell us why they hate the Tsar, basically tell us what happened to and indirectly happened to Lincoln and Kennedy. And it's just amazing document. But I found a guy by the name of Benjamin H. Freeman. And he grew up as you said, Benjamin H. Freeman was an American businessman. They say he's a Holocaust denier. I wonder what actually makes you a Holocaust denier. Maybe if you say it didn't happen or the number or what. Put in the chat what you think what makes you a Holocaust denier. And he was vocal and he was an anti-Zionist. And that's what it's saying in the wiki. And born in the Jewish family, he converted from Judaism to Roman Catholicism. But he came out with the album, speech in 1961. Very, very important, very, very powerful speech. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play some of it tonight. Of the King Bulan, the dad of the Ashkenazi Jews, King Bulan. Yeah. So if you're listening to my series, that's a part of what I said. Absolutely. So I got a part 1, if you haven't seen it, and then I also got a part 2, if you hadn't seen it. And it's not going in chronological order either. It's going on at the spirit lead and what's going on in my. We didn't even talk about how they took over the monetary bank with the creature from Jekyll Island, and they took over the monetary system here in the United States. But it's a way they got control of the banks, Hollywood, the news industry, all the media, the record companies, everything. But that's not what I'm talking about tonight. I'm going to share. I'm going to play a part of this audio, and then we're going to chop it up and then ask some questions. You know what? One thing we can't not do is stop asking critical questions, right? People think, oh, you paranoid, or you crazy, or you conspiracy theorist. No. There's nothing new under the sun, right? We're here at a certain day and age and a certain time because of some things that has transpired and some things that have happened and that are happening, right? So I'm kind of jumping the gun with this one. Like when people say like, oh man, all of a sudden we just got on Russia real tough. Because back in the 80s, it was a real big thing. United States and Russia, the two superpowers, and they both got nuclear weapons, and Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan and all these different things, if you remember, if you grew up in the 80s, stuff like that. or was around in the 80s, right? I should say. But and then all of a sudden they just you quit hearing about them, right? Change the flag, you know, and it went to terrorism, from communism to terrorism, right? And then Iran, Iraq, you know what I mean? And we got to fight the terrorists, and Gaddafi this, and what's the what's the man the charge of Cuba? Fidel Castro that, and we getting all of this different narratives, right? We getting this news and we getting it fed to us, fed to us. It's putting in movies, it's putting everywhere, and so we get a certain mindset, right? And I'm setting us up for basically what happened even with World War One, between World War One and World War Two. We got a certain mindset how you can easily demonize or ostracize some people. Not possibly it could be all what they saying, right? But then again, it could be some propaganda to get you to be in agreement with the foolishness that's going on. And I'm gonna prove that from what I'm about to play today, right? Because we have to have critical thinking. We have to have critical thinking. Man, there's a lot of layers or whatever. And if you say stuff like crisis actors and different things like that, which they really do have, right? They're like, oh man, you just, they want to take the narrative that they're creating and the news and the media at face value. Take it right at face value. Don't investigate it. We said that's the official report. Everything else, and so let's get right into it. I want to get right into it. Um, I will put this link to this uh, audio recording in the chat. Very good audio recording. Some of you probably heard it. Majority of you probably heard it. But his name Benjamin H. Freeman. Again, um, he was an American businessman. They say he's a quote unquote Holocaust denier, and they called him a vocal anti-Zionist. Born into a Jewish family, he converted from Judaism to Catholicism. His name was Benjamin H. Friedman, and he was in a lot of these meetings, man. So it's one thing to speculate and say, well, man, I think that this person is this way or that way, but it's a whole other different ball game to say, yo, I was sitting in the meeting. I was sitting at this. I know what was said because I was there, right? And some people have a guilty conscience. They try to scrub their conscience clean. You know what I mean? And it seemed like it was pretty dangerous to do back then. But, some people don't want the truth. They want their way. They want their narrative, right? Um, the father of lies, Hasatan is the father of lies. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I'm going to play this real quick. I'm only going to play like a few minutes of it. And I'm going to play my fair use first. And then I'm going to have my fair use scrolling at the bottom. Let me play my fair use first. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Again, fair use. So that's the fair use. I'm gonna play. I got some more people coming in, some people coming, some people going. It's all good. Not a wait. Okay, y'all chatting with each other. Okay, so I'm gonna play this real quick. Listen to it. Put a 1 in the chat. Look at people leaving us. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard this before. Yeah, the Balfour Declaration. Exactly. The Balfour Declaration as well. And not to jump the gun on that. Not to jump the gun on that. And again, it's not more ammo for hatred or anger or anxiety. Because I'm gonna ask a question at the end of it. The reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. But that Balfour Declaration, but then to have the narrative like send these people back to their homeland, it's wild. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna play this real quick. Check it out. It's interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to hear a very frightening speech. This speech is an explanation of the plans now being laid to throw the United States into a third world war. It was made a short time ago before a large group in the congressional room of the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C. Both the speech and the question and answer period later so electrified the audience that a group of patriots has transferred it to two long playing records which you may buy to play for friends, clubs, and your church groups in your community. The speaker is Mr. Benjamin Friedman, noted authority on Zionism and all of its schemes. Mr. Friedman is a former Jew, and I mean a former Jew. He has fought the communist world conspiracy tooth and nail and stands today as a leading American patriot. We now take you to the speaker's platform to present Benjamin Friedman.
Let me know if y'all can hear this. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear this.
What I intend to tell you tonight is something that you have never been able to learn from any other source. And what I tell you now concerns not only you, but your children and the survival of this country and Christianity. I'm not here just to dish up a few facts to send up your blood pressure, but I'm here to tell you things that will help you preserve what you consider the most sacred thing in the world, the liberty and the freedom and the right to live as Christians, where you have a little dignity and a little right to pursue the things that your conscience tells you are the right thing as Christians. Now, first of all, I'd like to tell you that on August 25th, 1960, that was shortly before election, Senator Kennedy, who is now the President of the United States, went to New York and delivered an address to the Zionist Organization of America. In that address, to reduce it to its briefest form, he stated that he would use the armed forces of the United States to preserve the existence of the regime set up in Palestine by the Zionists, who are now in occupation of that area. In other words, Christian boys are going to be yanked out of their homes, away from their families, and sent abroad to fight in Palestine against the Christian and Muslim Arabs who merely want to return to their homes. And these Christian boys are going to be asked to shoot to kill these innocent people who only want to follow out 15 resolutions passed by United Nations in the last 12 years, calling upon the Zionists to allow these people to return to their homes. Now, when the United States troops appear in the Middle East to fight with the Zionists as their allies to prevent the return of these people who were evicted from their homes in the 1948 armed insurrection by the Zionists who were transplanted there from Eastern Europe, when that happens, the United States will trigger World War III. You say, when will that take place? The answer is as soon as the difficulties between France and Algeria have been settled, that will take place. As soon as France and Algeria have settled their difficulties and the Arab world or the Muslim world have no more war on their hands with France, they are going to move these people back into their homes. And when they do that, and President Kennedy sends your sons to fight over there to help the crooks hold on to what they stole from innocent men, women, and children, we will trigger World War III.
Now I want to pause right there because this came out in 1961, and we know that they had the Israel and Arab conflict in 1967. But he was basically saying the people that was already in the land was very upset, right? The Arab people that was already occupying Israel was very upset. And so they played, as we all know, they played the narrative that, this is God fulfilling prophecy. These are God's people. We will bless them that bless you. We will curse them that curse you. We need to send them back home. But we all know about the Balfour Declaration. And basically, in short, it was basically in World War One, Germany they had the new invention. They had that submarine, and they was just going through everybody. They had a strong army beating up on everybody, right? And so he's going to talk about how they uh, the other side of war, the Allied side was like, you know what, we straight, we ain't trying to fight no more. So Germany was like, you know what, uh, we ain't got to divide the sports because there's a lot of money in sport and war, and the way we are taught that war happens, we're taught that it's reactionary. You did this, and now we got to go to war, But wars are strategically planned out, and that's another something that people think that's a conspiracy theory, but wars are strategically planned out. They make big money in war, right? The whole thing with the Pearl Harbor thing, and then we go over there and blow that whole country up, then say we sorry and rebuild it up. Well, when we rebuild different countries, they use our steel, our oil, our electric, and we build it back up. But we got a stakehold in the country, right? Went over there and had a fight with Iraq, and then built it up. You know what I mean? Killed their leader and built it up, right? So it's to make money. So whoever loses the money, that whoever the victor is, they get the quote unquote spoils of war. Whoever the loser is, they are debtors to it. So Germany was winning. We don't want nothing. We just want to call it a truce, this, that, and the other. And I'm going ahead, but you're gonna hear all this. Woodrow Wilson, that was his whole thing. He's like, yo, I'm running my campaign in, we're not in the war. And it was talking about how the United States was very young, very wealthy, right? Just came out of the slave, because what this is 1916, 1914, and all that. The United States was bankrolling. All right, even before the quote unquote roaring 20s, they called it the roaring 20s because they had so much money. You know what I mean? The Industrial Revolution, they just had bread because the slavery just ended in 1865. U.S. got money. They said, that's y'all fight over there. We ain't got nothing to do with it. We good, right? We over here, we just living the life of Riley, chilling. And so Germany, mollywop, Britain and all of them. And so the Rothschilds and them was like, yo, we going to get the United States in the war. Y'all can still win the war, but when y'all win, we want that's what the Balfour Declaration y'all was talking about. We want Palestine, right? And I got some things written down here that saying why they wanted Palestine, right? We want Palestine. They had to play the narrative that, we going back home to the Holy Land and all of that, right? It said a significant event occurred in Germany, although they were winning the war, and not one foreign soldier set foot on the soil offered armistice against the Britain with requirement of reparations. The Rothschilds were anxious to make sure that this didn't happen, as they were expected to make far more money off this war. So they played another card they had up their sleeve. While the British were considering Germany's offer, Rothschild Louis Brandeis sent Zionist delegation from America to Britain to promise to bring America into the war on the side of the British, provided the British agreed to give the land of Palestine to the Rothschild. Okay, so they wanted to get Israel. The Rothschilds wanted Palestine for the following reasons. Not because wings of eagles and going home and going back home to their homeland. They had a great business interest in the Far East and desired their own state in the area, along with their own military, which they could use as an aggressor to any state and threaten those interests. The British subsequently agreed to the deal for Palestine, and the Zionists in London contacted the counterparts in America and informed them of this fact. Suddenly, in the major newspapers in America, at this point, they was pro-German, right? So he gonna talk about that too. It was pro-German. Germany wasn't the bad guy, but now we hear this. Germany's the bad guy, and Hitler and Nazis and all this different stuff. Before that, it was pro-German, right? Because they owned the media in America and over there, so they was pro-German. Turned into a running propaganda, such as German soldiers were killing Red Cross nurses. German soldiers were, and I'm not making them. I'm just reading history. I'm not taking the side of Germany or nothing. I'm just reading what happened, right? Cutting off babies' hands and all this stuff. The same year, President Woodrow Wilson ran a re-election campaign under the slogan, "Re-elect the man who would keep your sons out of the war," right? Because they didn't want to get into the war. They're like, man, we straight, man. We ain't got nothing to do with none of that over there. We ain't got nothing to do with that over there. But I say all that to say, and I'm kind of jumping the gun. I'm still gonna play this video, and then I got a little small slide, and we're gonna get out of here. It's not reactionary like we think. It makes you think. Look at the things going on right now with the whole Russia thing, right? I'm not making Russia no Boy Scouts. Just hear me out, okay? Critical thinking skills. All of a sudden, they this, they that. Iran is this, that, and the other. Russia is this, that, and the other, right? They just demonize, and now we got solidarity against. You know what I mean? We sending weapons, we doing this, that, and the other. We got that. So it's kind of like basically like, look, we need to get this war going. We need to get this war going, but we know that a war has to take place between the current state of occupied Israel and Iran, and we know that China and Russia is a part of it as well. But then it's not reactionary, right? It's well thought out and well planned, based off of this statistics and how they did this back in the day. So this was his thought then. This was before '67. Kennedy was president, and it was like, yo, you know, back in the days, Woodrow Wilson, he was way before Kennedy. In 1916 was like, yo, vote for me, we'll keep your sons out the war. Well, he had an affair. He had some affairs, right? So they was like, yo, we're gonna put your business out the street, Woodrow, right? We're gonna tell everybody. We're gonna put it in the papers. And it was like, no, you can't do that. So basically, that's when the propaganda started. And I got some of these propaganda posters too. Ivy Lamar Shalom, For Awakening Shalom. Roham, seeing me. But I'm gonna play it real quick. I'm gonna finish playing it. I just got hyped. But let's finish playing it.
And when that starts, you can be sure we cannot emerge from that war a victor. We are going to lose that war because there is not one nation in the world that will let one of their sons fight with us for such a cause. I know and speak to these ambassadors in Washington and at United Nations, and of the 99 nations there, I've consulted with maybe 70 of them, and when we go to war in Palestine to help the thieves retain possession of what they have stolen from these innocent people, we're not going to have a man there to fight with us as our allies. And who will these people have supporting them, you ask? Well, 4 days after President Kennedy, or he was then Senator Kennedy, made that statement, on August 28, 1960, the Arab nations called a meeting in Lebanon, and there they decided to resurrect or reactivate the government of Palestine, which has been dormant more or less since the 1948 armed insurrection by the Zionists. Not alone that, they ordered the creation of a Palestine army, and there are now drilling maybe 500,000 soldiers in that area of the world to lead these people back to their homes. With them, they have as their allies all the nations of what is termed the Bandung Conference group. That includes the Soviet Union and every Soviet Union satellite. It includes Red China. It includes every independent country in Asia and Africa, or 80% of the world's total population. 80% of the world's population, 4 out of 5 human beings on the face of the earth will be our enemies at war with us. Not alone are they 4 out of 5 human beings now on the face of this earth, but they are the non-Christian population of the world, and they are the non-Caucasian, the non-white nations of the world. And
so I wanted to talk about that language. We'll say non-Christian, non-Caucasian. Remember, if you see in my past series, I broke it up, and I know it's many different nations, right? And you know, we're not going off the classism of black, white, but it's like two groups at war to try to control the narrative, to try to control the resources. And I always say the Anglo and the Khazars, right? So when you hear patriotism, when you hear right wing, when you hear a good Christian, wholesome Christian, that's like the Anglo-Saxon side, right? They want to dominate the world, dominate too. They build in the world, whatever. And so the Khazar side, the left side, the ones who fund the left side, and all these different other groups stir up, funded the communism regime. All of that, they bankrolled it, right? They're the instigators and the agitators, and they bankroll it. And a lot of times people don't like these kind of stuff because it's like this is the same stuff that got everybody over in France and Germany mad, and then that's when the Holocaust happened. But I think a lot of innocent people, per se, they might have been Khazar in blood, but they wasn't a part of the global Zionist ideology or understanding. They were just by blood, right? And so they got caught bad. They got it bad. And even thinking about even 9/11, after 9/11 happened, um, a lot of Muslims would just get beat up in the street, right? They'll throw stuff through their Muslim people's windows, right? And it's like I ain't had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? That's why they start putting flags up in their windows and say, I'm with you. I'm with you guys. You know what I'm saying? I don't tear my business up. And that 9/11 time was crazy. But it's like a tug of war. But the spoils of war and that whole thing about colonization and the colonialism, it's an ugly thing because you just be living your best life on your continent and your planet, and somebody just come and just take over your stuff. And so the Arab people, they were they were more Shemitic than the people who was coming to take over. But I digress. Um, they were just living there, right? And then let's just think about you got a house, and people just start sitting up tents, pulling out a barbecue grill, start setting up a pool in your backyard, and you go look out like, man, what y'all doing? Man, we about to live back here. Like what? What? And so you'll have conflict, right? And so I seen a map, from the time from 1948 until now, the occupied, they almost the same thing that happened with the Native Americans here in this continent, on this continent. It's just like, okay, what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine, you know. And they came and took over the continent and pushed them and gave them a casino and sent them to Montana, Wyoming, somewhere else. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? It's just real, real interesting. And I'm not demonizing or beating up nobody. They say this is not hate speech. I'm just saying what happened, right? It just happened. And even the Hawaiian people, I seen a documentary on Hawaiian people, right? They was using that for a military base, and the Hawaiian folk was tripping. Then they seen how beautiful it was, the trees and the vegetation, and then they made it you know a tourist attraction and made it one of the 50 states. And even to this day, you go to the island, some of the Hawaiian people are just like tripping, like, yo, man, what's going on? So that was mine is what's yours is mine is crazy. But on the forefront, the narrative that's being taught, the narrative that's being told is always different. So you gotta always use your critical thinking skills. Right? It's not to point the finger, it's not blame game, it's not throwing nobody in the bus, it's not conspiracy theory, it's just based off of history. And history always repeats itself, right? And they're going somewhere. And a lot of people are very patient, right? They said, what's your 5 year, 3 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year goal? They got 100 year goal. They got, man, within the next 200 years, we want to blah, 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 right? They got 100 year goals, making plans, making moves, having meetings about what they're going to do with you and your resources, right? Or whether you need to be here or not, because you're sucking up too much air and producing too much carbon. But I digress. So let's go back to this. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But I want to go back to this record. So bear with me, track with me.
That's what we face. And what is the reason? The reason is that here in the United States, the Zionists and their co-religionists have complete control of our government. For many reasons, too many and too complex to go in here, at this time, I'll be glad to answer questions, however, to support that statement. The Zionists and their co-religionists rule this United States as though they were the absolute monarchs of this country. Now you say, well, that's a very broad statement to make, but let me show what happened while you were, I don't want to wear that out. Let me show you what happened while we were all asleep. I'm including myself with you. We were all asleep. What happened? World War I broke out in the summer of 1914. 1914 was the year in which World War I broke out. There are a few people here my age who remember that. Now, that war was waged on one side by Great Britain, France, and Russia, and on the other side by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. What happened? Within 2 years, Germany had won that war. Not alone won it nominally, but won it actually. The German submarines, which were a surprise to the world, had swept all the convoys from the Atlantic Ocean, and Great Britain stood there without ammunition for her soldiers, stood there with 1 week's food supply facing her, and after that, starvation. At that time, the French army had mutinied. They lost 600,000 of the flower of the French youth in the defense of Verdun on the Somme. The Russian army was defecting. They were picking up their toys and going home. They didn't want to play war anymore. They didn't like the Tsar. And the Italian army had collapsed. Now, Germany, not a shot had been fired on the German soil. Not an enemy soldier had crossed the border into Germany. And yet, here was Germany offering England peace terms. They offered England a negotiated peace on what the lawyers call a status quo ante basis. That means let's call the war off and let everything be as it was before the war started. Well, England in the summer of 1916 was considering that seriously. They had no choice. It was either accepting this negotiated peace that Germany was magnanimously offering them, or going on with the war and being totally defeated. While that was going on, the Zionists in Germany, who represented the Zionists from Eastern Europe, went to the British War Cabinet, and I'm going to be brief because this is a long story, but I have all the documents to prove any statement that I make. If anyone here is curious or doesn't believe what I'm saying is at all possible. The Zionists in London went to the British War Cabinet and they said, look here, you can yet win this war. You don't have to give up. You don't have to accept a negotiated peace offered to you now by Germany. You can win this war if the United States will come in as your ally. The United States was not in the war at that time. We were fresh, we were young, we were rich, we were powerful. And they told England, we will guarantee to bring the United States into the war as your ally, to fight with you on your side, if you will promise us Palestine after you win the war. In other words, they made this deal. We will get the United States into this war as your ally. The price you must pay us is Palestine after you have won the war and defeated Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. Now, England had as much right to promise Palestine to anybody as the United States would have to promise Japan to Ireland for any reason whatsoever. It's absolutely absurd that Great Britain, that never had any connection or any interest or any right in what is known as Palestine should offer it as coin of the realm to pay the Zionists for bringing the United States into the war. However, they made that promise in October of 1916. October 1916. And shortly after that, I don't know how many here remember it, the United States, which was almost totally pro-German, because the newspapers here were controlled by Jews, the bankers were Jews, all the media of mass communications in this country were controlled by Jews, and they were pro-German because their people, in a majority of cases, came from Germany, and they wanted to see Germany lick the Tsar. The Jews didn't like the Tsar, and they didn't want Russia to win this war. So the German bankers, the German Jews, Kuhn Loeb, and the other big banking firms in the United States refused to finance France or England to the extent of $1. They stood aside and they said, as long as France and England are tied up with Russia, not 1 cent. But they...
All right, so you heard what he said. He was... Now, some people may think that's just rhetoric and this is hate speech and anti-Semitic and different things like that. I mean, because of the way he's using, the language or whatever like that. But I'm saying this: if it happened, it happened. If you did it, you did it. If you didn't, then that is hating. But if you actually did it but don't want to get called out, that's a whole other different story, right? And so you got these two extremes battling for the, in my opinion, to control. They want to control, right? They both want control, but one can't take the other one out. I don't know if you've seen any of these mafia movies, and they'd be like, "Yo, this family trying to kill this family and trying to lord over the whole thing, right?" But they like, man, we can't overtake them because they got power, right? Gang recognized gang, so we gonna just cut it up. We're gonna divvy it up. You take that section, you take the north side, I take the south side, they take the west side, cut it up. It's like how they do. And they do that with continents, they do that with nations. And so, but the dirty trick to fund us, right? What I mean by fund us is they see that, remember, that was one of the plans to put opposition, basically the Anglo versus the Negro, right? I'm gonna have them pitted against each other by heaping coals up and funding them, funding their different operations, the NAACP, all these different things like that, Black Lives Matter. And so when they call it out, they say, hey, them is communist socialist dollars, and they this, that, and the other. Well, we uneducated don't know. We see a black fist, we see the red, black, and green BLM. We don't know who it's backed by. We just know that we getting this. I ain't gonna say fake love and support. I'm not gonna say that because some people will trip. But we getting this what looks like support, so we with it. So it's like we don't know no better. See, it's a blind spot. So we like, man, I don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all doing us bad. They on our side. And then they're like, yeah, we're on your side. But then what comes with it? All this different other agendas that come with it, right? Bills passed, laws passed, or monetary monies is given, and you get nothing. And you're just like, wow. So I took a nice stick over the head, and that's all I get out of the deal, right? And so that's what happens. So that's what I'm saying. Abba Yah, give us discernment. Let us know who our true allies are, right? All that glitters ain't gold, and all money ain't good money, right? The enemy comes as an angel of light. He comes as an angel of light to act like they are helping, right? So even, and I don't want to, and I'm gonna go back to this, but I made this point before with the music to say, yo, we'll fund your music, right? But this is the image and the likeness you are. You're a killer. You're a bad bee. You're a gangster. You're this, that, and the other. And we'll sign a contract with you as long as you're making that kind of music. Then we good, right? Now it gets your kids through private school. You can eat some good steak. You can buy you some nice cars and a nice chain. But overall, it's decimating the community, right? But that's not what we're talking about tonight. So I'm gonna finish playing this real quick, and because I don't want you to, I'm gonna play it.
They poured money into Germany. They fought with Germany against Russia, trying to lick the Tsarist regime. Now, those same Jews, when they saw the possibility of getting Palestine, they went to England and they made this deal. At that time, everything changed, like the traffic light that changes from red to green, where the newspapers had been all pro-German, where they'd been telling the people the difficulties that Germany was having fighting Great Britain commercially and in other respects. All of a sudden, the Germans were no good. They were villains. They were Huns. They were shooting Red Cross nurses. They were cutting off babies' hands, and they were no good. Well, shortly after that, Mr. Wilson declared war on Germany. The Zionists in London sent these cables to the United States, to Justice Brandeis: go to work on President Wilson. We're getting from England what we want. Now you go to work, and you go to work on President Wilson and get the United States into the war. And that did happen. That's how the United States got into the war. We had no more interest in it. We had no more right to be in it than we have to be on the moon tonight instead of in this room. Now, the war, World War I, in which the United States participated, had absolutely no reason to be our war. We went in there, we were railroaded into it. If I can be vulgar, we were suckered into that war merely so that the Zionists of the world could obtain Palestine.
Do you hear what he said? That's crazy, man. These wars, and I think about, and it's shout out to everybody who went to the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. I'm not dogging y'all at all, right? But I'm just saying, what's the narrative that's told? We going overseas, but we fighting terrorism, right? We fighting, like we the global police, like we just run up. It's like, man, how are you in this conflict, right? And then you heard what it said earlier. France lost 600,000 of their boys. 600,000. So y'all can play chess. That's terrible. That's terrible. That is so terrible. Right? And they're even remembering, and I'm gonna finish playing this, man. But I'm just thinking things coming up, but as I hear this is about my 7th time hearing it. And every time I hear it, something else go off. But I think about even when it's like, okay, we're finna go over to Iraq, Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield, or I think it was Desert Storm was the first one. No, Desert Shield, I think it was Desert Shield, the second one when the sun got in there. And it's like we're gonna try to find these weapons of mass destruction, this, that, and the other. We're finna go fight terrorism. Then, a lot of people died, you know what I'm saying? And then I was like, oh, we can't find none. And then they laughing about it. It's like, no, we got sons and daughters that's not coming home. You don't play with folk lives like that. You don't do that. But anyway, I'm about to finish playing this. All right, let's play it.
Now, that is something that the people in the United States have never been told. They never knew why we went into World War I. Now, what happened? After we got into the war, the Zionists went to Great Britain and they said, well, we performed our part of the agreement. Let's have something in writing that shows that you are going to keep your bargain and give us Palestine after you win the war, because they didn't know whether the war would last another year or another 10 years. So they started to work out a receipt. The receipt took the form of a letter, and it was worded in very cryptic language so that the world at large wouldn't know what it was all about. And that was called the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was merely Great Britain's promise to pay the Zionists what they had agreed upon as a consideration for getting the United States into the war. So this great Balfour Declaration that you hear so much about is just as phony as a $3 bill, and I don't think I can make it more emphatic than that. Now, that is where all the trouble started. The United States was in the war. The United States crushed Germany. We went in there, and it's history. You know what happened. Now, when the war was ended, and the Germans went to Paris, to the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, there were 117 Jews there as a delegation representing the Jews, headed by Bernard Baruch. I was there, I ought to know.
I'm sorry, that delay is I'm going to mute my mic. The peace conference in 1919, right? He said, I was there, I ought to know. So you can't say conspiracy theory. You can't cry, none of that. He said, I was there, right? I was there, okay? And so said, per the Rothschild of Zionists promised to British to take America to the war, they decided they wanted something in writing from the British to prove that they will uphold their side of the bargain. As Sister Jill said, the British Foreign Secretary, Arthur James Balfour, therefore drafts the letter, the Balfour Declaration. November 2nd, 1917. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have the pleasure of conveying to you on behalf of His Majesty's government the following declaration of sympathy with the Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to, this is the letter, approved by the cabinet. His Majesty government viewed the favor of the establishment of Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavors to facilitate and achieve of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done with any prejudice the civil, the religious rights of non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Right? So they said, we're going to go over there, we're going to behave. We ain't going to mess with the Palestinians over there. Or the rights of the political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours sincerely, Arthur James Balfour. Right? So a lot of people didn't know about this, but then they brought this receipt out after the World War I ended. Germany lost. There was at the peace conference in France, Versailles, 1919, and then that's when the Germans found out, and they was mad. They was like, "Bro, y'all did us like that." But I'm gonna finish playing this, and then I'm gonna get out of here.
Now, what happened? The Jews at that peace conference, when they were cutting up Germany and parceling out Europe to all these nations that claimed a right to a certain part of European territory, the Jews says, how about Palestine for us? And they produced, for the first time, to the knowledge of Germans, this Balfour Declaration. So the Germans, for the first time, realized, oh, that was the game. That's why the United States came into the war. And the Germans, for the first time, realized that they were defeated. They suffered this terrific reparations that was slapped onto them because the Zionists wanted Palestine, and they were determined to get it at any cost. Now, that brings us up to another very interesting point. When the Germans realized this, they naturally resented it. Up to that time, the Jews had never been better off in any country in the world than they had been in Germany. You had Mr. Rosenow there, who was maybe 100 times as important in industry and finance as Bernard Baruch in this country. You had Mr. Ballin, who owned the two big steamship lines, the North German Lloyd and the Hamburg American line, thank you. You had Mr. Bleichsröder, who was the banker for the Hohenzollern family. You had the Warburgs in Hamburg, who were the big merchant bankers, the biggest in the world. The Jews were doing very well in Germany. No question about that. Now, the Germans felt, well, that was quite a sellout. It was a sellout that I can best compare. Suppose the United States was at war today with the Soviet Union, and we were winning. And we told the Soviet Union, well, let's quit. We offer you peace terms. Let's forget the whole thing. And all of a sudden, Red China came into the war as an ally of the Soviet Union. And throwing them into the war brought about our defeat, a crushing defeat, with a reparations the likes of which man's imagination cannot encompass. Imagine, then, after that defeat, if we found out that it was the Chinese in this country, our Chinese citizens, who all the time we thought they were loyal citizens working with us, was selling us out to the Soviet Union, and it was through them that Red China was brought into the war against us. How would we feel in the United States against Chinese? I don't think one of them would dare show his face on any street. There wouldn't be lampposts enough convenient to take care of them.
Wow. There wouldn't be lampposts enough, convenient enough to take care of them. So, wow. Basically, like we'll if we got done like that, we'll be ready to hang them. But I'm gonna stop it right there. We're gonna play the next part to that on another time. But I'm gonna share something. But the main thing also with that, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. This world system is crazy, And I don't do that to. I didn't do this show to get nobody on this live fired up, mad, putting salt in the wound, throwing nobody under the bus. I just said that to say, look, all that glitters ain't gold. Everything we watch on CNN, Fox, and all the other networks. I mean, who knows? I mean, it makes me think like, and I'm not coming to Putin's aid, but I'm like, is he forced into the war? Right? Is he backed into a corner? Right? And I'm not making them no Boy Scout again. Listen to what I'm saying. All that we hear is, Soviet Union. I mean, no, it's Soviet Union no more. Russia this and Russia that, and you know what I mean. And every time somebody don't have a central bank, right? They don't want to play central bank game. They are communist, terrorist, terrible country. You know what I mean? And we throw folk under the bus. I mean, even today, I mean, we could throw it under the bus, right? On the news, you watch the channel news. You mean to tell me that everything going on in the city is just like the random black guy just snatching purses? Now, I'm not saying that's not news. I'm not saying don't be careful. I'm not saying that didn't happen. But you get a lot of more of that stuff going on, right? So that brings the devalue down of us. So when we get killed, it's like that's one less you got to worry about. You know what I'm saying? That's but I'm saying it's like, man, that when you get this propaganda going, get the rolling propaganda, you can demonize or ostracize any group. So I'm gonna share the slides and then we're gonna get out of here. Okay. Let me see. I don't even know if it's sharing. Let me see. I got to keep going back and forth. Look at it loading up. All right. There you go. So, again, Benjamin Friedman. Come on, put that out of there. Right? American businessman, Holocaust denier. And I don't know what makes you really. I'm gonna look that up. Is it if you deny the 6 million, or if you deny it ever happened? I know somebody ain't denying it ever happened. Now, that's crazy. I've seen videos of it. It's terrible. And I wish that on no man, woman, and child. But you can't tell one group of people, forget about it. That happened a long time ago. That's a dark stain in our past. And then tell somebody else, never forget. All right? A vocal anti-Zionist born in a Jewish family, he converted from Judaism to Roman Catholicism. And so this is what he was talking about, that status quo anti-basis, when Germany at first was like, you know what, we whooped y'all up real bad. We don't even want no spoils of war. Let's call the war off and let everything be as it was before the war started, right? And then it came in. So this is an actual button from Wilson, Woodrow Wilson in 1960. He has kept us out the war, right? Vote Wilson, who will keep you out the war. So we rich. I mean, United States is rich. They just came off of Reconstruction and Industrial Revolution and slavery, free labor, got bread, right? They banking, right? Look, we want to stay here and spend it and live it up, right? We don't want to go to war. We ain't got nothing to do with that war, right? So that's what his campaign. Then they blackmailed him, and then all of a sudden we in the war. We United States is in the war. Now again, to iterate what he was saying, the information was pro German, right? It was a lot of pro German information as far as in the news. Then you start seeing folders like, posters like this. Keep the Huns out. They used to call the Germans the Huns. Uh, Buy home protection with war saving stamps. Lend your $5 shillings to a country that crushed the Germans, right? You start seeing more propaganda. Okay, the British Empire, once a German, always a German, right? Remember this thing, enlist in the army. Look, like, I don't know what is that, a frog or some kind of German beast to take they women. It's crazy, right? Right? Destroy this mad brute, right? 4 reasons to buy victory bonds. He's watching you. This fear. Keep these off the U.S. Buy Liberty bonds, right? Because they had to try to fund the war and get tanks, and you know how they did it. But they went from pro German to putting stuff out like this. Then all of a sudden, you in the war. And this is funny. The reason I put this one in here for people that don't like woke awakening, they said wake up. The poster back then in 1917 was Wake Up America, right? America need to be woke. Ain't that crazy? Wake up. You sleep, America. We need to wake up, this, that, and the other. So this is the paper saying war says Wilson, big army wanted. So he went from I'm gonna keep your sons out the war to this. Another one. U.S. officially at war. Wilson signs resolution at 100. 113 today. U.S. declares war. Right. So they start going through all that, and U.S. enters World War One the day after the sub sank 7 ships, and after Zimmerman, that's a whole nother different guy. He's a Khazar guy too. Note was made public. Congress declared war on Germany in April 6, 1917. The world must be made safe for democracy, right? So that's the whole thing they be saying. You know what I mean? The whole thing. So this is the peace conference after that war, after Germany lost, right? This is the peace conference. They had a lot. They said like over 117, not only just Khazarian men, but all over. A whole bunch of people was dead. This is one of the shot, and even today it reminds me of made me think about when they was in Switzerland. Be having these meetings, man, and deciding your fate, right? They deciding what we gonna do and carbon emission and all this other stuff, right? And they want you to be tripping off of the music awards and all this other stuff that Kyrie, he going to another team and all this different stuff, but then they over there coming up with all kind. They coming up with plans, you know. Why do the heathen rage and the well anyway? Right? They're having conversations to talk, right? They presented that Balfour Declaration. The Germans was hot. I'm pretty sure some Americans is hot too, because it's like, yo, you mean to tell me we ain't had to go to war? And the real reason we went to war is not because they. So there's the copy of the Balfour Declaration, and it was on display at in the museum in Britain. And then they took it down. They're like, nah, we straight. We straight on that. All right, Palestine for the Jews. Official sympathy. Everybody get a sympathy, but it's all okay. I'm not making us the victim. I just made it. The Balfour has sent the following letter to Lord Rothschild regarding the establishment of the national home in Palestine for the Jewish people. Is that the same one I read? Yeah, I read that already. So that's they put that all in the newspaper, right? So Russia, the blue was Great Britain, France, and Russia, and Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy was together. Okay, so I want to check out these comments, and we're gonna see what's going on again. I really hope that you guys. What's going on with my camera? Hey, I ain't trying to stir you up. You have a good night's sleep, beloved above all things. I wish that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. We just chewing the fat, we chopping it up, we using critical thinking skills. We're not hating nobody, right? Because that one little sweet Khazarian lady don't know nothing. She just living her life, making her little matzo ball soup, doing her thing, right? You can't. But I'm just saying, um, that whole colonialism is infectious. They. And so they that stay and you can't throw stones if you stay in the glass house. You can't call the kettle can't call the pot can't call the kettle black, if I should say it like that, right? So what happens is they know they're in bed with each other. They know each other's plans and plots and schemes a lot of times. So when one side try to call out the other side, it look like racism or hate or trying, man, why you falling for it? You don't know what's going on, but they won't tell their side and vice versa. One side say, look how they doing you, look how they treated you, but you call their side out and you call the left side out, they call it anti-Semitism, and if and hate, you call the right side out, then they call it racism, right? And it's all one big game. And our true ally is the Most High. Oh, you say good information. Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man. And that's the reason why I was like, yo, what y'all want me to do? Because we don't have to do no historical stuff. Because I don't. Because it can weigh heavy on you sometimes. Um, if we can just do whatever. But majority rule. We got 47% bruised news and stuff like that. No, matzo ball soup good, and I'm not dogging nobody, man. Ernest Higgs in the building. Shalom, shalom. But I'm saying these crisis actors, all of this. That's what I'm saying. Pump the brakes. Whenever you see a breaking news and this person doing that, or they throwing somebody under the bus, always second guess. Always pump the brakes. Ask the Most High. Is this true? What's going on with this? Because everything that they show you, see, in my opinion, in closing, that's temperature gauge. Like, we already got our plan in place, right? We got our plan in place. Biden ain't doing nothing. Putin, a lot of these guys ain't doing nothing. It's a group of men behind all of that stuff, right? So you trying your best, you trying to pass laws, you trying to do all this different stuff. It's like, look, man, this is what we gonna do, but we'll put it out there so we can get the gauge, we can get the temperature of the people. They use that, and they use social media now. This, when people post, as a man posted, so is he. So they post their heart. So they go on there and be like, oh, okay, these group of people feel like this. Those group of people feel like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I want to quench the fire or put water on this fire or put gasoline on the fire. So if they want to put gasoline on the fire, you get all this stuff in your news feed, to hype you up, right? If they want to quench it because they don't want to be caught out, they put water on it, right? But anyway, shalom. I talked today to a German woman who escaped the World War today, and she remembered going underground. She says the history books lie, or some people go by their opinions. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. And my question is this, to Rohan's point. All right, Hitler, this, that, and that. Like, if they control the curriculum, that's why we getting a lot of Anne Frank, Schindler's List, the Holocaust. You're gonna learn about that. Because I used to wonder in social studies, like, why are we learning about this? Right? But we got to keep that on the front of our brain. This happened to these people. That's so terrible. This, that, and the other. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, man, what happened with Leopold? And man, he just cutting off hands of Bantu Israelites in the Congo. And it's, it's not, what about, the stain of slavery, right? They just make light of it, like, well, that was a dark part of our history, happened a longer time ago, and you need to get over it. I said, okay, I feel you. I feel you. I understand that. You don't tell us, and so it's just a control game. So we gotta be controlled by the Most High. Tell us what to like, what not to like. You mad? Okay, you can protest, but you only can protest on this corner from this time to this time, and after that you got a curfew. You got to be a nonviolent protest. Then you go home. You got make you a sign. What? It's because it's control. Opposite, you're controlling it, right? People outraged and upset. I mean, I'm not condoning violence or nothing, but I'm just saying you. All right, we're gonna give you a little bit of Black history. All right, once after the 27th or 28th, whatever, the last day of February, we ain't on that no more. Pack all that stuff up, roll them until next year. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of control. It's interesting though. But let me see what you got here. They caught the president in bed with the man. Oh wow! I didn't know Woodrow Wilson was. See now I got to see now I got to go back up in there. Ernest Higgs in the building. I hope they don't do nothing to this show because I had to just put it on BitChute or another platform. We just chewing the fat. No, we chewing the fat, y'all. We just chewing the fat. And again, if you ever, I'm serious with this. Get overwhelmed, start getting worked up because of the material presented. Log off for real. Log off. Now I say that I like everybody in the chat. I want all y'all to be on, but if y'all get over because like I was watching this film the other day about the they got the war on drugs. They got a lot of them with Freeway Ricky Ross and all that. They had another one with a different spin to it and giving more information, and I couldn't take it, so I had to turn it off and go do something. And then a couple of days later, I was okay to watch it. You know what I mean? And then I watched Project 1619. And they try to sweep the sands under the rug. You know what I mean? They want critical race theory. They don't want these different things pointed out. You know what I mean? And so anyway, let's see what's going on. They used to sell chocolate hands. Yeah. But, they used to sell chocolate hands. It's all good. But vengeance is his. So our job is to, preach the good news of his return. Wash the people with the water of the word, right? Both the Hebrew and the stranger, and keep it moving. But it just makes me think about. So every time something come out, I pump my brakes on it. You know what I mean? When they trying to throw people, if I hear a lot of stuff in the news, the first thing I type up: do they got a central bank in their country? Right? Who are their allies? Right? What's going on? But I think that Palestinian and occupied Israel conflict is going to increase. So like a lot of fronts. That's why it's going to be a world war. He said, I'm going to bring you all into the valley of decision, right? And I'm going to plead with you for what you did to my people, right? And you got China in there. You got, flying balloons over the country. And you got Russia. Russia like, y'all too close to our borders, man. Everybody invading everybody's sacred space. And see, that's one of the things about colonization because you can set up a little base or a little, somewhere away from your borders and shores and spy out. And, you ain't that far away if you need to, send some planes or send some boats or something. So that's why they got these little satellites because they, so you got one that's got their own kingdom. They trying to build it up, right? You got one trying to tear it down and rebuild it up until their stuff. That's why that, in closing, for real, that statue in Daniel, I'm going to teach that again. The statue in Daniel, the dream and Nebuchadnezzar had about the statue, the head was gold, representing Babylon, and then Persia was silver arms, and then it was brass for Greece, then iron for Rome, and then part iron, part clay for the feet, and then a rock came out of the heavens of the Shemaim, not carved out with hands, and smashed all of the kingdoms of the world in the end times. That rock is Yahushua HaMashiach, right? He's the solid rock. He's the chief cornerstone, and so the feet is part iron, part clay, right? It's not together, right? It's they somewhat together, but it's just a mixture, right? It's confusion, right? Part iron, part clay, right? So um, it's going down. You got people in here laughing. What y'all laughing about? Must have happened a while ago. No, I was just in a room full of white men planning. See, look, see y'all get upset. See, playing stuff like that, man. This is history. This is a history lesson. We just chatting, chewing the fat, right? We just chatting and chewing the fat. We ain't hating on nobody, right? We just bringing it out. Just make me think. So, in hindsight, when I make a statement, they be like, "Where'd you get that from?" Well, from reading and research and knowing who's who. Well, getting to know who's who. I don't know it all. Getting to know who's who. Then I'm like, oh, your agenda is this, and you want to do this, and you want to do that. Oh, you got a God complex. Oh, you want to have male, male, woman, woman, but you need a heterosexual couple to bring more people on Earth. So you got to try to figure out how to clone people, so you don't have to depend on heterosexual, which was Abba Yah's original plan in the first place. You're all over the place. It's confusion. He, she, they. That they is legion, for we are many. You feel me? It's just crazy. And so when they want us to be put into that world, they want us to be put into that madness, right? We have enough that we suffer and go through, right? The trauma, the different things that we suffer and go through. Oh, it's 117. We're gonna get out of here. I like to have short. Lives. That's not a short one, but we got to end it right here. All right, Elephant Man Podcast Network. Make sure you check out parts 2, 1 and 2, and we getting the bit shoot together, the Rumble, Odyssey. We getting some merch together, and we also getting Patreon together. You have access to a lot of these different books. Elephant Man Podcast Network, Grown Man Conversation, dealing with elephants in the room. If this blessed you, share it with somebody else. I am out.